All right, good afternoon, everyone. It is my pleasure to welcome you to this exciting webinar hosted by Bliss IT Consultants in partnership with our value business partners, Fiorano and End Exception. I am Stephen Lau, Business Advisor at Bliss IT Consultants, and I'm thrilled to see so many participants from the banks across Vietnam, Myanmar, and the Philippines gathered here today. As most of you may be aware, Blitz is a fast-growing system integration company providing integrated payment systems and compliance solutions primarily to the financial services sector in the region. Blitz has been a Swift partner since 2005 and has over 15 years of experience in providing Swift care and services to our clients in the region. Next chart, please. Let me now introduce Mr. Biju. Mr. Biju is the Managing Director, Banking and Financial Services at Fiorano, London. Mr. Biju has 25 years of experience in IT and transformation. He is currently responsible for product strategy and partner channels, specializing in ISO20022, open banking, banking as a service, and embedded banking. We also have Akil Rao, Managing Director at End Exception. Mr. Akil has more than 19 years of experience in product management and business consulting, particularly in strategic payments business transformation programs. And we also have with us this afternoon Mr. Harish TV, Senior Solution Architect at Fiorano, who will take us through a demo. As we all know, the financial landscape is evolving rapidly. In this digital age where technology is transforming every facet of our lives, it is crucial for financial institutions to stay ahead of the curve. This webinar is a platform for us to come together and discuss the latest trends, challenges, and opportunities in the industry. We aim to provide valuable insights and foster discussions that can help drive innovations and growth in our respective markets. Next chart. Today, we have a packed agenda filled with insightful topics that I believe will resonate with each of you. We will be exploring practical next steps that your banks can take to stay competitive and compliant. We will also delve into various topics such as ISO 20022 dates and deadline, structured data elements in ISO 20022, and the non-compliance impact. These discussions will empower your teams with the knowledge and tools needed to navigate the complexities of today's financial environment. I encourage you, each of you, to participate actively in today's discussion, ask questions, share your thoughts, engage with our speakers. Your insight and invaluable, and we are all here to learn together from one another. Before we begin, I'd like to extend my gratitude to our teams, partners, and speakers who have worked together to make this event possible. Their expertise and commitment are essential in driving meaningful conversations and insights. And with that, as a very quick introduction, I wish all of you a very productive and insightful session ahead. Let's make the most of our time together today. Thank you, and let me now pass the time to Biju, Managing Director at Fiorano, to take you through an interesting topic entitled ISO 20022 Dates and Deadline. Biju, please.
Thank you so much, Stephen. Once again, welcome to the webinar. Thank you for joining. My name is Biju. I head banking as a vertical for Fiorano. I'm normally based in London. Today, I'm joining you from Cairo, where it's nice and sunny. Once again, thanks. So let's get started. Before we start with our slides, what I would like to do is, as is now customary in a lot of webinars, start with a very quick poll just to get a sense of where we are in the room today from an ISO standpoint. So these are the questions, or the poll questions. There are 4 very simple questions. And just to get a gauge of the audience in terms of where your readiness is. So if it's okay, we're going to launch a very quick poll now and leave it there for 2 minutes, and we'll come back as soon as we have the responses. Abhi, if you like to, lovely. Here's the poll. Please do respond. And this is quite important now because we're seeing a bit of a range of different levels of understanding of what CBPR plus compliance means. Almost every bank in the world today is able to receive ISO messages. But the deadlines next year are slightly different. It's about initiating payment instructions. And that's what this poll is designed around. So we'll wait for a minute or so for the responses, and then we'll pick it up. Abhi, do we have the responses? Interesting. So roughly 9% have met outbound data requirements. 47% are in the early stages of planning. 30% just to meet requirements. And 14% are in the process of rich data. Akhil, what are your thoughts, Akhil?
So, this is the way it looks like. From the poll, we see that, I mean, of course, Asia Pacific was one of the first geographies who actually started more migrating towards the ISO because they had the internal high value payment transformations going on in country by this thing. So I think that is the reason we see a varied percentage across, which is very good. It'll make our whole webinar very interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the overall trend is not too dissimilar to the rest of the world also.
Correct. Yes. Absolutely, yes.
Stages, yeah, I'm perfect. Lovely. Thank you so much. Let's kind of move on. So if you can go to the next slide, please. So let's start with the timeline, right? And we thought the timeline is quite important because many of the banks we're working with started off with the message saying, yes, we are already CBPR plus compliant, because for obvious reasons, you have been receiving payment messages since early 2023. But we thought it was relevant to kind of put up the overall timeline and talk about the key dates, requirements, and impact. So as we all know, CBPR Plus has been live since March 2023. In November, there's been a significant update last year. We are expecting a significant update with the new set of messages in pretty much about a month and a half from now. And that's the blue dot shows where we are. But what's going to be really critical are the next few stages, right? In November 2025 is the end of coexistence phase. It's also when SWIFT and local domestic MIs will start support for hybrid addresses. And the impact from that can be quite significant because of the variations in address formats globally, and because the fact that most banks globally have not been holding addresses in structured ISO native formats, right? And that's a fairly big, high impact change, although addresses itself would not seem to be such a big deal, but they are. And then you have November 2026 when support for unstructured addresses will completely stop, and there's a significant impact there. So we thought it's important to start today's webinar highlighting the key timelines. And we are just on the cusp of the November 2024 deadline right now, or milestone. This is a Swift specific slide. I mean, the material is quite publicly available, and we'll also be distributing the slides after the webinar also. Abhi, if you can go to the next slide, please. Here's another snapshot of the current status of where we are globally. So without going into too much of the detail, I think the key takeaway here is the column on the right. And as you can see, roughly 26% of payment instructions right now are ISO20022. For the majority of banks in the world at this point in time, you're receiving ISO messages. But come next year, you will have to start initiating ISO messages, which means that changes the priorities you as a bank has to be able to start initiating payment messages with structured data. And that can become quite complex. I think another key thing to think about is the fact that while currently 26% of global network traffic is ISO20022, in many cases, because the whole industry has not yet moved to it, a lot of the messages still pretty much like for like, which means they may be following an ISO20022 structure, but the content is pretty much, in many cases, not always, not rich completely. It's not fully, so it's not rich, right? And till now, that means there's not much of an impact in terms of data truncation. There is some impact, and that impact is growing day by day. But once what is going to happen is once the entire network upgrades properly to structured payment initiation, most banks who are receiving those messages, unless you're able to contain, manage the extra data, it's going to result in significant issues operationally and in terms of regulatory reporting. So that's quite important, because what ISO will look like a year, 18 months from now, in terms of impact on your bank's existing systems, is significantly different to what the last, let's say, 12 to 18 months has been like, because specifically of the fact that much more richer data is going to be on global networks. Let's move on to the next slide, please. And we want to take just maybe 1 or 2 minutes to kind of once again highlight the benefits of ISO20022. People, Swift and many other institutions globally have been publishing lots of content and material around the benefits of ISO20022. In general, we can see those benefits split into 2 categories. One is about running your business. Okay, how can you make processing more efficient? And specifically, when we talk about structured data, that's the key element that's going to be a game changer, right? So it's the ability for you as a bank to be able to consume and act on very specific data sets related to different parts of improving payments efficiencies that are going to allow you to run your business more efficiently with more automation, and eventually incorporating a lot of the benefits that the developments we're seeing in the AI world is going to be able to deliver into banking, to improve processing and things like straight STP, improve investigations, improve financial crime compliance, and regulatory reporting. So that's one side of things, which is purely the ISO data helping you as a bank to run things more efficiently, run transformation, run automation. The other side of ISO20022 is really about how can you monetize the data. Right? And a lot of that comes down to how will you use the extra data in ISO to be able to do things like growing your business. And I can give you a very simple example. There's a beautiful intersection between open banking, ISO20022, and CRM data. The kind of profiling you as a bank can do when you combine multiple data sets, which ISO enables, supported by open banking, is huge. It's almost transformative. And we've got some examples here about building better value propositions in different verticals and enhancing customer insights. But in general, there are these 2 categories. And one thing we're beginning to see with different banks globally is different teams being set up to be able to think about how they can improve their business based on ISO data. And it kind of very nicely fits into these 2 categories. So the benefits are huge, and the benefits will be quite evident, available once the industry moves, and you as a bank will start having access to very structured data that's coming in. Let's go to the next slide, please. So I represent Fiorano, and we are a global independent software vendor. We work with banks all over the world on multiple programs, including open banking and core modernization and ISO20022. And one of the things we're seeing quite consistently, while the benefits are quite high, are some of the challenges, right? And quite often, a lot of the challenges have to do with the fact that many systems in banks are not native ISO20022. On the one hand, there are guidances from people like Swift to be able to upgrade core systems. But quite often for a bank, that upgrading core systems is not going to be just one core banking platform, right? So remember, while right now the impact of ISO20022 is primarily for the payments domain, over the next 5 to 7 years, we're going to see similar impact on trade finance and securities at a minimum. So there's no quick fix to this. It's not a singular domain problem. It's quite important that as a bank, you look at the ISO20022 as a whole. Quite often, even for the banks who have spent millions of pounds upgrading core systems, quite often you will find that that one system is not going to be it all, because the impact of ISO20022 is quite broad. It affects multiple systems. And the impact is because of primarily the data. There is an impact from incoming messages when data comes in, to be able to hold and manage the extra data. And there's an impact on when you have to initiate a payment message, on your ability to be able to inject the extra data required to create a rich structured message. And those two categories of incoming and outgoing data management are what's becoming a problem. So quite often we're seeing, even if you do go through a fairly complex and disruptive core upgrade, one system upgrade may not be enough. So there are better ways to do it, and that's something we're going to present to you today. But before we do that, can you go to the next slide, please, Adi? What I'd like to do is hand over to my co-participant presenter on today's webinar, Akhil Rao from Nthexception, which is a specialist ISO data company, to take us through what the impact is and what does this mean in terms of the extra data, and specifically the current deadline around addresses, and what does that mean for banks? Akhil, over to you.
Bill, thanks. So when we look at there are a lot of banks, a lot of industry participants that have been discussing structured data, right? So the obvious question is, what exactly is structured data in ISO20022, right? Because there are a lot of benefits that have been tied to the rich data as such, right? So when we look at it closely, structured data is, instead of free text, banks will be able to use more structured information, such as structured postal addresses, right? We will not have free format remittance information, but a very structured remittance information of code from an external code list of ISO, right? And then there is also around the whole identification of corporations by leveraging legal entity identifiers. Now, all this information becomes machine readable over a period of time. And because the data as such is uniform, complete at the same time, it allows the payment information to flow seamlessly between different systems, right? Especially when we are talking about modernizing the high-value payment systems or the cross-border payment system, in terms of not just limiting it to SWIFT, but also cross-border instant payments, right? Then a bit of deep dive into the importance of this, right? We will see that structured data is very important, very critical in terms of anti-money laundering, sanction screening, right? Where we expect the information to be accurate. We expect the information to be very detailed, but at the same time, it has to fit into the format that is being transmitted. And this has been a legacy issue as such in any payment system, right? And what we are doing effectively with structured data is it reduces any discrepancies, it reduces any sort of misinterpretation during the whole data exchange. And like I mentioned, it makes the whole flow seamless. Now, there are quite a few different industry drivers as well when we look at it, right? There is, of course, there is a FATF 16 change, which is coming in. Then there are changes that are coming in from the Wolfsburg for screening. We have G20 targets. For G20 targets are mostly global. And what the G20 is, of course, looking at is how do we simplify the cross-border payments, right? And then there is, of course, the new projects, new innovations that are coming in, such as the Project Nexus by BIS. So there are quite a few industry drivers. Now the question is, are the banks ready to bring in that structured data into the network, right? Abhi, can you go to the next slide, please? Great. Now, before I jump into the addresses specifically, right, let us take a step back and let us understand what are the challenges, right, around structured data, and then we'll move into the change that is coming in on structured addresses. From our experiences, what we have noticed consistently across banks is, of course, there is the data which is there in the bank is incomplete at times, and because the data is incomplete, it leads to errors, and this delays the payment processing globally, right? That is increasing the timelines, and there is a subsequent impact on the client as such. Then there is the legacy data which is sitting in the systems. Now, because of the legacy data which is unstructured, it does not meet the current day ISO requirements. That again brings in data format issues, right? Because there is no consistency around the data as such, right? And of course, I mean, we also understand that because the data is broken, because the data is not formatted and is free format, right? It impacts the AML processes, it impacts the sanction screening processes. And this in turn brings in risks in terms of penalties of non-compliance, right? And then there is also the whole system upgrades and integration, what you discussed a couple of minutes back, right? If we look at slide on the screen, right, we are talking about we are in the current stage of unstructured addresses, right? If we just focus on address as such, because there are linked deadlines around structured addresses. So unstructured address is the current format that we are using, that is on the MT, the Swift MT messages, right? But the plan, what Swift has proposed is we are going to, as an industry participant, we are going to move to hybrid addresses and eventually have a focus on structured address implementation, right? So the structured addresses come into play next year, and then we have the fully structured addresses that is going to be a preferred way for any communication as such, right? So when we say structured addresses, right, there are a couple of different benefits if you look at it, right? It is not just complying to a deadline, but banks must also look at, okay, how are we going to leverage structured address to improvise our current day processes, right? Is there a possibility to push that structured address into our sanction screening list, into our gray list, right? And improvise the process, right? That is one way to look at it, right? Abhi, if you can go to the next slide, please. That is, I believe, we're discussing the deadlines around current, right? So this is a very industry address specific timeline, right? And this is only for Swift that we are talking about. As you see, fully structured has a complete end 2026. Fully structured, we can still do that. And then the 2025 deadline around hybrid addresses, which are going to come in, which is completely new, right? The question then also comes in, are banks ready at some point, or do they want to have any sort of remediation process to validate the addresses which are there in the system itself, right? So it is going to be a lengthy process over a period of time, but it is also going to deliver its benefits as well, right? Biju, back to you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. And I think it's worth mentioning also, this is quite important, is the fact that while these broad deadlines globally are from Swift on the CBPR Plus program, multiple MIs are also moving to the need for structured addresses
Absolutely.
with Swift. So it's important to be aware of the fact that this is not only going to impact cross-border payments. The need to be able to handle, manage structured addresses is going to impact domestic payments also.
Absolutely. So just to add a point, Vijay, so there is, I mean, if we are like, on that particular point, right? I mean, how it impacts not just cross-border, but also the high-value payments, right? Say, for example, the RTGS, the UK RTGS, which is undergoing its own transformation, they are going to mandate structured addresses, right? And not just structured addresses, they have a full plan how they want to implement legal entity identifiers and also purpose codes and remittance information over a period of time, which is going to get mandated for all GBP/sterling payments, right? And if the direct participant is not able to provide that, there is also a possibility that bank may just reject it at network level, right? So it is going to create a whole set of rejection of payments and also a whole new processes where the whole customer complains, right? Yeah, please.
So I mean, I think the idea of today was to try and provide some clarity around the impact. Well, what does it mean? And like Akhil mentioned, there are 4 different categories of structured data: purpose codes, remittance information, alien information, and addresses. The highest impact right now globally is managing the address problem for being able to for payment initiation messages. But today it's not all doom and gloom. We wanted to kind of talk to you about an answer to the problem also. So if you go to the next slide, please, Abhi. And these are things that we are working on very closely with Steven's team, with Blitz, in the APAC. So many of the banks on this program may have used external translators to comply with incoming ISO requirements. That was probably good till now. That those are not going to work going forward for ISO publishing requirements. So Fiorano is a 27-year-old ISV. We have been working in banking for roughly 16 years all over the world, in multiple spaces. Payments is of course one of them. But what we have is a Swift certified translator, which, unlike other translators that sit outside the systems, we sit in between the bank systems and the bank's channels. So essentially, we form the Fiorano product is pre-certified for CBPR Plus. There's no development required; it's plug and play. It is designed to sit in between multiple systems the bank may have and external networks, and it comes pre-built with MX to MT and MT to MX translations for CBPR Plus, but which can be easily extended to other schemes. So the benefit is very simple, right? Instead of spending millions on a core upgrade, which will still then impact only one system, and leaving you as a bank with multiple periphery systems that will get impacted over the next 7 years. If you use a centralized solution, you can fix this permanently for multiple systems and multiple domains. Again, going back to the point that right now it's the world's payments domain. Over the next 7 years, at a minimum, trade finance and securities will also migrate. So, so even if you were to spend millions of dollars right now on a core upgrade, it will not stop there because there are other domains being impacted. Whereas this kind of model will fix the problem. And what makes the proposition quite unique is 2 things. One is the fact that we can sit between multiple systems and channels, but we can also provide a fix to the corporate to bank side of things. Remember, a lot of your payments that are coming through corporates are impacted from an ISO standpoint, and there is no mandate on corporates to fix this. So if you deploy Fiorano in a corporate to bank gateway, you can fix issues straight away out of the box. And what makes it quite unique is when we club our translator with the Swift certified data fabric from Nth-Exception, Akhil's organization, which essentially provide very critical functions to manage the extra data. What that means is for incoming payment messages, when you have extra data that will start coming onto networks very, very soon, if not already, you will see that impact. It will affect regulatory reporting. It will affect operational reporting. With the solution we have, because we sit in between systems, managing the data centrally within your bank, think of this as almost complementing the Swift Transaction Manager. The Swift TM will harmonize data between banks This is a permanent solution within the bank. So you have everything within your data centers under your control. For incoming message handling, Firano receives an MX, translates to MT, and the extra data is saved in Nucleus. Both products are Swift certified, but the data is then available to operational users for querying, for reporting, and for regulatory updates also. For outgoing, this then becomes a fairly bit of a game changer, because what Nucleus does is it uses machine learning to provide Firano's translator with structured elements. What that means is that we can receive a standard unstructured MT from your core systems without any changes on the core platform. I can take the MT file, step it up to MX. Nucleus will specifically enrich data sets. So you can send an MT to Firano with unstructured addresses without LEI information, as an example. Nucleus will do an LEI lookup, enrich the information, send it to Firano. Nucleus will take that unstructured data set, identify the country, identify the address format, and restructure the address as per the 14 low-level ISO data fields that have been mandated, and send Firano that input in a structured format, thereby allowing us to take that unstructured MT from your core systems and create a fully structured, rich MX. That's very, very powerful, because without this kind of a capability, and machine learning has been hugely beneficial to be able to provide the kind of automation we need. But without this kind of facility, you're talking about, impact, timeline, spend is going to be 10x what it otherwise will be with a solution like this. Next slide, please, Abhi. And essentially, right, so what we're able to do is manage the addresses, the data, right? From an incoming standpoint, there is data management. So the data fabric will essentially link message pairs up, store them, deconstruct them into low-level fields. See, a lot of banks initially, when ISO went live, have tried to take the approach of storing the full message set in a traditional RDBMS blob format or in a file folder. Now, in reality, while in your mind you're thinking that's there, so it's useful, you really can't do anything, because you're talking about rich structured data and multiple fields. You can't really access that from any of these two formats, right? What Nucleus does is it deconstructs them, saves the messages with every single low-level field, granular field identified and linked. So you can then shoot a SQL query or an API query into Nucleus and ask for data sets back, right? And that allows us to do very powerful things, will allow us and you as a bank adopting it to do things like operational reporting, operational automation for things like data glueback. So I can receive an MX file, translate to MT, run the MT file on your existing MT core system, and on the outgoing journey, take the MT output, step it up to MX, glue back data, and send a fully structured MX so that you appear to be ISO native to your audience, and you don't, without upgrading core systems. With all the data being managed, that's a critical difference, right? You have to manage the data. And then for outgoing, initially to meet the most critical deadline of addresses, full automation, because the data fabric is trained on millions of addresses globally, to be able to identify any country address in unstructured format, to receive it, identify the format, and restructure it. Next slide, please, Abhi. Again, the product sets, there's two components here. There's a translator, which does integration, orchestration, and translation. And then there's a data fabric, which is just data management. Both product sets, as part of the solution, are CVPR Plus ready. Both product sets are managed by Stephen's team, Blitz IT. They are fully certified, trained, and ready to implement the product sets regionally. And these are both Swift certified and ready to be deployed, and they can also be extended to other schemes. So it becomes a common singular solution to meet CVPR Plus requirements and also multiple domestic RTGS type HPPS requirements, right? And that's it, right? So the idea is that while we spoke about 4 structured data sets that you have to think about: postal addresses, LEI information, purpose codes, and remittance information, Right now, for the next few years, the real priority is around addresses and to a certain extent, purpose codes. For example, like the Bank of England address example that Akhil provided earlier. And Nucleus becomes a solution within the bank to be able to provide that. When you club that with Fiorano, I mean, the problem kind of goes away. And you have a quick fix, but also long-term, very strategic solution to be able to leverage and monetize ISO data also. I think enough said. We've been going through lots of slides. Please do send your questions in. We're going to show you, my colleague, I'm going to hand over to Harish right now, who's going to show you a quick demo of how all of this actually works in Fiorano. Over to you, Harish.
Thanks, Biju. Hello, everyone. Hi, my name is Harish. Good afternoon. So I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to start with one single slide and then the product, right? Yeah. So here is my just one PPT, which I'm going to present. Yeah. So yeah. So this particular slide, right, talks about our core platform, right? So we have built the solution, the integration accelerator, Fiorano FIA, which is Fiorano integration, ISO accelerator, right, is built on top of our hybrid integration platform, right? So which the architecture, what you see is of that particular system, right? So here we have, so our platform is basically built on top of Fiorano MQ, right? Which ensures we have the asynchronous message driven architecture, ensuring the messages are not lost even if there is a network failure, right? And in the middle we have the central server that monitors all the deployment servers that you see in the bottom, right? 6 black boxes. And so basically you can start with one single server. You don't need to have 6 servers. You can start with one and then you can scale up by adding any number of servers, as and when you want to scale up. For FIA, right, you don't need so much servers. But however, if you have want to scale up for different other use cases, which I'll be just taking you through, you can even scale up by adding any number of servers onto your network, right? Yeah. So and then of course we have tools that I'm going to show you, right? So that's about the quick one slide, right? And then now I'm going to take you through the product directly, right? Yeah. So we have, so as I was showing on the screen, right? So I have here a Eclipse-based development UI, right? Which is meant for developing the processes, integration processes, right? And also I have a dashboard, which is for monitoring, which helps you to monitor through a dashboard, which is a web-based dashboard, right? Right. So here on the left-hand side, I have the integration processes here, and on the right-hand side, I have the adapters, right? Ready-made adapters, right? Well, so on top of this platform, we have for FIA, we have shipped various flows or processes that is used for translation, right? So for instance, you can see there are 2 folders. One is MX to MT and one is MT to MX, right? So these processes, right, basically translate from MX from one format to another format, right, which is predefined, right? And on the top, we have the core flows which is the main, which are basically the main flows where one will need to configure, right? So if you look at the process, right? So you have a source folder, which is been polled using the Fiorano file reader adapter, right? Which is basically used, or which is available on this under this microservice palette, right? So we have used this to poll a file reader from a file folder, and then and it goes to the core flow, right, which internally routes to the flows that you see under MT to MX or MX to MT flows, right? And then finally the output, right, will be returned into another target folder, which can be changed, right, as per the customer's requirement. For example, if a bank uses MQ, let's say an IBM MQ or a Kafka, or if let's say someone wants to expose them as an API, right? So we have adapters here, right? So we have various adapters where you can configure the target and source endpoint, and also you can expose the whole process as an API, right? You also have FTP based adapters. Let's say even in case if you want to set alerts, right? In case if something happens or some events within the flow, you can use alerts like email or SMS, right? Using SMTP adapter or SMPP adapter. Yeah. Okay. So yeah. So that's about the flows here, right? So yeah. Apart from this, right? So one can also develop a process something like this, right? For example, this is a process which was developed for bank in Cambodia, where no, of course, we have multiple other customers. This is just one flow where it is this particular flow is exposing an API that listens to a request, an outgoing request from their channel systems. It is getting converted into ISO 8583 from its proprietary message format. Then it sends to the fast system, right, which is central bank's network, RTGS network, and the response, which is nothing but a web service, right? And then the response from the API is getting converted back to its proprietary message and is sent back, as a response to the original request, right? And so basically you can create any kind of complex processes like this, right? So this is another complex process. This is not part of ISO, but this is a customer onboarding process which does various steps, right? Various steps in registering a customer, right? So here it does a KYC check, it does an account creation, it does a customer ID creation, it also updates loan lending system. So this was developed for another bank, right? So just wanted to show that we are basically flexible enough to handle various requirement, right? Not just ISO 20022, right? Or for CBPR. So even you can have any to any kind of translation here, right? Yeah.
Can I add a
So
point? 1 second. Sorry, just 1 second. So I
please.
think a few things to highlight, right, from what Harish has shown you just now. One is the fact that for CBPR Plus, there is no development required. I mean, while what we've shown is a very powerful platform to create new flows, for CBPR Plus, we ship with all the ready-made translations that are pre-certified, right? And as and when Swift updates their schemes, the specifications, those will automatically come into FIA as part of the license subscription. So for CBPR Plus, it's plug and play. We will ship with all the MX to MT and all the MT to MX translations out of the box. Beyond that, like Harish has shown you, Fiorano is very customized. I mean, it's very customizable. So we we are used for multiple use cases beyond ISO20022. So this is one subset. We are used in open banking, in payments orchestration. You can create custom rules in Fiorano. So plugging Fiorano into your environment is also very, very easy, as is, and you can do it in the no-code form, in a no-code format, as is extending the core CBP plus libraries to multiple schemes or specific message types also, including custom formats. So it's not a restrictive locked platform. It's a very open platform which ships with ready-made accelerators. Harish, sorry, back to you.
Okay. Well, so here, what I'm now going to show you is the live demo of how the MX to MT and MT to MX work, right? So I have a copied one file, right? I'm going to place this file, right? On my source folder, right? Which basically will be picked up from by the flow, and then it will be basically returned. The target file, right, is returned back onto my target folder, right? So this is the MT which got converted from the original MX message, right? So as you would be knowing, ISO20022, the field length, the fields, right? So the field length is like, let's say there are certain fields like which would be like 500 character long, right? But in MT, it will get truncated because it cannot take more than let's say 100 or 125, right? So here we have truncated here, right? So this is the MT which got converted. So what we also do is we also help in storing these messages and can be glued back. The original fields, right? The value of the original fields can be glued back when we send an outgoing messages, which is a part of this particular incoming MX message, right?
Harish, can you just one second on this on the XML on the ISO file? Can you go to the other end and highlight the Sudan? Okay, because I want to just be able to show the difference when a transaction happens as per the actual specifications and guidelines. So if you highlight that field towards the right side, we should have.
So this is the one, yeah.
So here you can see Osmani Digna Port Sudan is part of unstructured information. And Sudan should be flagged up under the sanctions list, which makes sense. So you have full data coming in. Now, when this message is translated as per the SWIFT guideline, because of truncation and field limitations in the MT format, and then systems that are receiving the data, Sudan is changed to SU+. Now, SU+ is not of much use because it could be anything, right? And this has been a known problem that we've known is going to happen for about 2 years now. And now with more and more data coming onto networks, it is becoming a real issue impacting regulatory reporting and operations. And once Harish is done with the demo, like Harish said, we are able to store data in Nucleus and take it back and glue back. What I'm going to ask Akhil to do is very quickly show you, once Harish is done, what that looks like in the data store. So when you'll see the incoming and transited message showing Sudan and SU+, and how you can probably retrieve that and plug it back into your orchestration payment flows. But I wanted to highlight this. Sorry, Harish, back to you.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah. So now, yeah. So similarly, I'm going to place source folder under source file under this particular folder, which should get converted back right into MX, and then it should get updated under this target folder, right? So basically the flows, right? So you can see there's a new one created here, right? And let me open that, right? So here it is, right? So what basically has happened here is, right, if you look at this street, right, you can see that it has been converted and it is placed into appropriate fields like street name, building number, postal code, etc. So when we look at empty message, right? So it does not have, it is not in a proper structure address format, right? So you cannot make out from here. So it is converted back into, yeah, into a structured data. Yeah, I think, yes, back to you, Viju and Akhil.
So I think what I'd like to do is, so here the address structuring has happened out of Nucleus. So as you've seen, we have received an empty message. Firano is event native. So the moment I get a message, Firano will translate it as per the set of the rule book, right? And in this case, Nucleus has taken that unstructured information, structured and given it back to us, which is what allows us to take a standard empty file and enrich data sets, right? And initially beginning with structured addresses, but then adding LEI information, purpose codes, and remittance information. So it's almost it's a quick fix to meet deadlines, but it's also a long-term fix to become strategically valuable to the bank adopting it. I don't know, Akhil, would you be able to quickly show these files correspondingly in Nucleus, what that looks like when we store them? Here we go. Lovely. You're on mute, Akhil.
Yes, sorry. So what I will quickly do is I'll do a search on the UATR that click on the instruction ID. And here what you see is first section is the truncation report, right? So there is the original MX value of the incoming PAX 008 and the output, which is the empty value. And you see there is a plus, which is in line with the SWIFT requirement, right? So what we do is we segregate the information, map it against each of those fields and against the value as well, right? And the second section is mostly about the enhanced data, the new data that is actually coming in, the rich data for the bank to leverage. This is again by the particular tag, what is your whole field and what's the value against it. Now, what it does is it helps the bank to extract information and then maybe push it to any of your internal system. Like I mentioned, I mean, you can just take this information and maybe for your reporting, or you can take the information and you can push it into your sanction screening systems for more information, for more detailed information, right? And at the bottom of the window, you see there is the full MX message on the right-hand side. And on the left-hand side is the translated NT as well. What this does, it helps the operations team to have a side-by-side look of what is the instruction, original instruction, and what is the translated information together, right? In one view itself, right? And this is mostly about how truncation management works. In fact, what Firano can do is Firano can also automatically create a MT199 according to SWIFT requirements, pick up this particular empty value and attach the whole information in terms of what is the full information for the outgoing MT199 in cases of intermediaries, right? So that also can be automated because you have the information in the bank itself. Yeah.
I think it's also important to highlight the fact that when Nucleus stores data, it's not purely payments, right? So what we have both done as product sets is incorporate the ISO model into the core of the platform. So right now it's a solution for payments, but tomorrow when trade finance migrates, when securities migrate, with the combined Firano solution working with the data hub, Nucleus, it becomes a long-term fix for multiple migration requirements. It's a quick solution, but also long-term fix. Thank you, Akhil, for that. And to be honest, I think that brings us to the end of today's main points we wanted to cover and demos. I think we can go into probably take some questions if there are any. I can see one from Kashif. And I can I have some inputs around that. So maybe Akhil, if it's okay, let me. So I think it's a really good point. Can you go to the Q&A slide, please? Oh, sorry. I'm mixing up the slides. Sorry, Stephen, over to you.
Thanks, Biju, and thanks, Harish, for that very insightful demo. I like to now take you through our Blitz and Fiorano partnership, specifically in two areas. One is the strength of the partnership, and the second is in the value proposition we bring to our client. In terms of the strengths of the partnership, the very first one is complementary expertise. Blitz IT consultants excel in system integrations and implementations, while Fiorano provides a robust middleware and integration technology, making the partnership a powerful combination for delivering end-to-end solutions. Secondly, is on the innovative solutions. Together, we leverage the cutting-edge technology and industry best practices to create innovative solutions that addresses evolving needs for our client, particularly in the financial messaging and compliance. And then the third one, in terms of strength of our partnership, is the global reach and local expertise. I mean, if you look at Fiorano has a very strong global presence, while Blitz has a very strong regional presence. We understand and we cater to the local requirements and regulatory landscapes in Asia, ensuring the tailored solutions for our client, right? And lastly, the collaborative approach between Fiorano and Blitz. Our partnerships thrive on collaboration, ensuring that our clients benefit from a seamless integration of technology and implementation services,
Yeah.
leading to a smoother project executions and faster time to market. Now, that's the strength of our partnership. But in terms of the value we bring to our clients, there are four that I would like to highlight. The very first one is the comprehensive compliance solutions. Our combined offerings ensure that clients can easily navigate the complexities of ISO20022 with structured data formats and compliance tools that meet global standards. Secondly, on the enhanced operational efficiencies, Fiorano powerful integration platforms combined with Blitz implementation expertise, especially in Vietnam, in Myanmar, and in Philippines, enables clients to streamline their operations, reducing costs and improving efficiency, right? The third is the future-proof technology. Now, what do I mean by this? We provide solutions that are not only compliant with current standards, but are also scalable and adaptable to future changes in the financial landscapes. And finally, and the most important of all, is the trusted partnership. Clients can rely on our trusted partnership for consistent support and innovations, ensuring that their business remains compliant and competitive in a rapidly changing industries. So that's what Fiorano and Blitz partnership will bring to you. There's a tremendous strength, and there's value proposition that we bring to our client. I like to pass some time to Biju to also highlight about Fiorano partnership with Blitz.
Thank you, Stephen. No, absolutely. So like Stephen mentioned, for us, the relationship is very, very strategic. And while we are a product company, we are very much global, right? So our engagements all over the world is very, very dependent on having world-class partners like Blitz, who understand the domain. I mean, and being a Swift partner, the Blitz team is fantastic. They're regional, they're in multiple countries. B, they really understand payments very well. And they've got tremendous amount of expertise on the product sets from Fiorano, as well as in the domain specifically, around payments, around MX and empty messages. And remember, whatever's happening right now on ISO is not just a one-time problem. A lot of people thought it was that last year, but as you've seen, we're now going to a much more complex stage of ISO. And nothing is going to be fixed right even now. Swift are going to keep updating specifications. In payments, there'll be more things added. And there's more domains coming. So most people are looking at ISO as a big fix right now, a big chunk of work, but then the long tail, because there will be work happening on ISO. And it's very, very important that while you can comply with requirements quickly, which we deliver, there is a long-term view to your ISO programs. And for that, having a product set that has that long-term strategic vision is important, as is having a partner who has a long-term support vision. And Blitz have been in the market for many, many years. They're a very trusted partner. They understand the domain, they understand the product set, and they do fantastic handholding. So for me, I mean, Stephen, it's a very, very important partnership, which is working very, very well. But I think that can be leveraged by banks to kind of really get going with all these complex ISO requirements.
Yeah.
And one of the things we like to offer is there's a very interesting white paper we published. So this is something that Akhil and I think we wrote about maybe 8-9 months ago. It's on ISO structured data. We do proper deep dive into the complexities around ISO structured data and what you need to look out for as a bank. It's something that's going to be made available free of cost. I think we're going to be sending it out to everybody who's registered on the webinar. But if we can go to the next slide, please, Abhi. We've also got a QR code where if you'd like to set up a meeting, see a demo, or even discuss a proof of concept, in your environment around, these complex use cases around structured data. How can you publish outgoing messages with structured addresses, and the information, etc. If you scan the QR code, you go straight to our website. You can, if you submit the form, someone from my team or Stephen's team will reach out to set up a meeting. But I think what I'd like to do is we can take questions, and maybe we can start off with the question which Kashif Akhtar put up a while ago. I think you raise a very good point. The question is, what is the future of structured addresses? Sorry. So the question is, what is the future of structured addresses adaptation by the banks and FI when hybrid addresses is there without a regulatory cutoff? Is the hybrid address not killing the whole idea to promote structured addresses? In short, I would say yes. I think the hybrid address is, for me, it's not been a very well thought through solution, because it essentially, instead of telling you as a bank to fix your addresses once and for all, it's giving you a two-stage fix. So hybrid is going to help a little bit in terms of getting the payment out, right? But it's not going to help you derive benefits out of it. I mean, the benefits of going to structured data, like we said, that are operational and in terms of growth and monetization, are dependent on that granular structured data, be that for addresses or other data sets. Now, by going to hybrid addresses and then going to structured addresses, it is doubling the work in most cases. So what a lot of banks are looking at is actually a way to be able to fix this once and for all. And then you fix it properly, you can move to hybrid structured, but move quickly, or fully structured straight away, but then gain all the benefits from structured data. So absolutely agree with you, Kashif. I think I'm on the same page there. Other questions?
Hi, team. We have another question here. Will Swift perform network validation on the ISO20022 structured addresses fields in a similar way to network validation that is performed on FIN messages today?
Akhil, you want to take that?
Yes. So yes, what Swift is going to do is, because Swift is having a deadline with starting November 2025 for hybrid addresses, they will have those changes as part of the message XSD as such. So that validation will be included over a period of time, and these will reflect in the Swift My standards as well.
Thank you, Akhil. Any other questions? And don't worry about sending everything right now, right? Yes, you'll get a copy of the slides, and we will be sending out a copy of the white paper. But if there's anything else, please feel free to get in touch with the Blitzsite team locally. Oh, there's one more question coming in. When empty addresses are formatted into structured addresses, how accurate it might be using the ML model you're using? Does it require reviewing before releasing to Swift?
Okay, I will take that. So as far as the accuracy of the structure is concerned, it is in terms of what does the bank plan to implement? Is it hybrid addresses or is it fully structured addresses? Because if it is hybrid addresses, then what we can do is we can tweak the machine learning output to comply with hybrid addresses. Then if we look at the structured address, what the machine learning component is effectively doing is it is going to just structure the address while we are not validating it to validating the address, because most participants, what they do is they tend to mix up or confuse between validating the address and structuring the address.
And I think if I can just add.
And as far as the reviewing or releasing before Swift, we understand that it is not going to impact your current process, because most of the payments in most of the payments processing divisions, the payment undergoes verification or a check at some level. So that doesn't affect. No, it is not going to affect STP as well. Biju, please, you wanted to.
No, I was just adding that the accuracy percentages in all the work we've done are in the high 98, 97, 98% of accuracy, isn't it, when we restructure?
Sorry, I didn't get that, Biju.
When we do the address restructuring, the accuracy levels.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the country. So that is the reason I did not touch the percentages as such.
Exactly, yeah. Thanks. Yes, of course, the recording will also be sent out. And the white paper, yes. Great. I think there are no more questions. It's been a really good session. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. Stephen, would you like to say anything before we wrap up?
Yep. So once again, on behalf of Blitz and Fiorano, thank you for your attendance. And I noted that many of you have stayed right through the session. I'm thankful that all of you stay right through, and we will keep you posted and updated. All the recording, all the slides will be sent to you. And if there is any further question, please reach out to us. We have our representative from Blitz office in Ho Chi Minh City, in Hanoi, in Myanmar, and also in the Philippines. Please reach out to them respectively. Thank you. And once again, on behalf of Fiorano, thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye, everyone.
Thank you all. Bye.